There is no point plotting or even trying to plot news today about the war with Iran, not from the perspective, at least, of President Trump. Again today, he gave several of these snippet interviews. These are brief phone encounters where reporters get a couple of questions in, dutifully jot down the answers, and then blast them out to a receptive but increasingly confused and bemused world. In one of these snippet interviews, Trump said his vice president, J.D. Vance, was already on his way to Pakistan for more peace talks. Then, somewhat awkwardly, Vance's motorcade pulled up to the White House, and Trump then told another reporter Vance hadn't left yet. Then Trump said he was confident a peace deal would be reached. Then he said if it wasn't reached, bombs would soon be falling again. And all of that left into question what would happen to the ceasefire, which is supposed to expire Tuesday, but Trump said might expire Wednesday. Amid all this dissonance, it wasn't even clear if the Iranians would send negotiators to Pakistan. Also unclear how the seizing this weekend of an Iranian-flagged vessel by the U.S. Navy fit within the understood confines, such as they are, of a ceasefire. The Navy, according to Trump, blew a hole in the vessel's engine room. Trump said the U.S. was enforcing its blockade on vessels that use Iranian ports. Iran said this encounter violated the ceasefire and therefore jeopardized future peace talks. Oil markets, optimistic Friday, this would all end soon, got quite discouraged today, and oil prices predictably shot back up. It is all quite a muddle. To help us steer our way through, we hope Charlie D'Agata joins us from Tel Aviv. Charlie, give it a go.
Okay, first of all, Major, I'm going to try. Let's talk about the state of the Strait. That's not an easy question to answer. First of all, over the weekends, the Iranians announced that it was open. The ships were moving through it, roughly 24 on Saturday, as we understand it, then shut it down again. In fact, fast boats opened fire on 2 tankers that were headed through the Strait, and they thought they had permission to go through. So independent trackers saw a handful go through today, 5 of them. The Iranian blockade seems to be in place, and of course the U.S. blockade is also in place. Central Command, that's the U.S. command structure in charge of this region. They told us they're not blockading the Strait itself, but the waters south of it, and they intercepted ships that are either headed to or headed away from Iranian ports. Officials tell us they turned around maybe 24. 27, I think, is the latest number, probably updated by now, either turning them back or stopping them from heading into Iranian ports, obviously depending on which way they were headed. But there was a ship, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, intercepted by U.S. Marines, that was on the way to Iran and not away from Iran.
And what happened to that vessel?
So, Major, U.S. officials we spoke to tonight said that Marines that boarded that Iranian-flagged cargo ship, they're currently searching around 5,000 shipping containers. Now, this happened in the North Arabian Sea. What they won't tell us exactly is where that ship is. They won't confirm that for obvious reasons. But if you do the math, probably off the coast of Oman. I think we should also point out this is no small thing, right? So U.S. forces opened fire on a merchant vessel using the kind of weaponry that can disable an engine on the ship. And this is a huge ship. This is around the size of one of America's largest, aircraft carriers. But they didn't sink it. So it's stricken. It's been disabled, to use the military term, by enemy or from U.S. fire. And we hope to learn a little bit more about what it was hauling. But they have told us that the ship, not necessarily what it was carrying, we don't know that yet. The ship itself had been sanctioned by the U.S.
Charlie D'Agata from Tel Aviv, as always. Thank you, sir. Turn now to the White House, where we find our Ed O'Keefe. Ed, what do we know, if anything, at this hour? And I put it that way because this hour is the only hour we can really wrap our arms around. Status of the vice president and any potential talks in Pakistan tomorrow or the day after.
Still expected to go to Pakistan either later tonight or at some point tomorrow morning, and the Iranians are still expected to send some kind of a delegation as well. What they'll discuss, for how long, with whom, all of that still not yet known, but it does appear as if both sides are still anticipating that they will head in the direction of Islamabad and hold talks. I mean, most urgently for the White House, obviously, it's to reopen or sort out the situation regarding the Strait of Hormuz. It remains under blockade, as Charlie was pointing out, and then work on the president's paramount pledge to ensure that Iran never possesses the ability to make a nuclear weapon. And yet we've seen Iran's president today suggest that his country will never bow to coercion, and the president continued to make threats that if the talks don't yield a deal, the ceasefire is over on Wednesday night. So, obviously there's still an impasse here, but it does appear both sides are at least planning to show up to talk.
And the president continues either through these interviews, these brief encounters by phone with reporters, or social media posts to try to shape the atmosphere, the current understanding of what is on the table, what may be achieved, or what's been achieved militarily thus far. Even as poll after poll after poll continue, this White House is up against a pretty skeptical public and a hard messaging problem.
Pretty skeptical. I mean, he's looking at record low disapproval when it comes to this war, for sure. Did you call them snippet interviews?
Yes.
I think that's a good description of them now, because these are obviously quick, never fulsome, never give us the full picture. They just give us a sense of his thinking at the moment. And as you pointed out, often become contradictory. And there's been some reporting that suggests that he relishes this because he knows that it's throwing everybody off. And we have to remember that on this issue and in many others, this is a White House that likes to do that, to leave everyone guessing, talking, surmising what it is ultimately happens, so that there's some level or some element of surprise and shock when there is finality. And so that may be part of what his calculus is here, to not only leave this country guessing, but really the world guessing about what ultimately may happen. And yet, the longer the strait remains blockaded, the longer there's no agreement between these two countries, the global economy is really going to begin to suffer. There's been some smart reporting today, especially now, about how this is really causing acute pain in Asia, which will inevitably spread to the rest of the world. Not seen here necessarily just yet, but very well could be in the coming weeks, which will create even bigger political problems for this president should this war continue.
And Ed, to that point, very quickly, there was a notable clash between what the Energy Secretary Chris Wright said and what the president said about the short-term future of gas prices in this country. That seems to me indicating some political pressure within the administration itself.
This is the Achilles heel. This is the most sensitive spot on the wound right now for the White House, because you're going into a midterm election season where the economy's over is issue number one. Yes, having been on vacation in the West last week, I can tell you I saw prices go in about 18 or 36 hours from $4.49 a gallon down to $4.08 a gallon. All right, there are drops happening, and the average price right now nationwide for a gallon is $4.08, down about 8 cents in a week, but still up considerably from when the war began in late February. And you're right, the Energy Secretary said, I can't guarantee this will change and go up below $3 before the end of the year. The president very quick today in one of those snippet interviews to suggest, he's terribly wrong about that. But it was even the president just 8 days ago in an interview, one of these longer television interviews, where he suggested the price may not come down before November's election. So they seem to acknowledge, whether they should or not politically, that they have no way of knowing, depending on how long this thing runs. And that will hurt them at the polls in November.
No way of knowing. Ed O'Keefe, he knows. Thank you, sir. CBS News national security analyst Aaron MacLean joins me now. He is also the host of the School of War podcast, which I highly recommend. What happened over the weekend?
Well, Major, let's zoom in on the Strait of Hormuz, where most of the action seems to continue to take place. On Friday...
This is the dramatic center of our current story, is it not?
So it is, and it doesn't seem to... the administration doesn't seem to have anticipated about 6 weeks ago that it would become the center, but it is very much the center today. Now, if you listen to the Takeout with Major Garrett on Friday at 5 o'clock, you would have heard our skepticism about whether or not the strait was actually open, despite the fact that the Iranian foreign minister said that actually you can transit through their waters, no problem. And you heard President Trump saying in a kind of one-man information campaign all day long, the strait has been open. Well, lo and behold, as our skepticism indicated it might, the strait was not open. The strait was closed pretty quickly by the IRGC, shooting at trips. But what we really have going on is a tale of two blockades, as Charlie D'Agata reported. There's the Iranian blockade in the strait, And then there is the American blockade blocking the Gulf of Oman off from the Arabian Sea to ships going to and from Iranian ports.
How big a deal was this U.S. Marine effort to shoot at a vessel and disable it in the open seas?
It was certainly an exciting episode for the sailors and Marines involved. So let's talk about what happened here and also do a little informed speculation as to why they shot as opposed to just boarded. So you had an Iranian container ship, a very large ship, proceeding up towards the port of Chabahar, which is right here on the Iranian coast. And right about at this spot on the blockade line is where the interception occurred. After the U.S. Navy, the USS Spruance, warned this ship for 6 hours to stop. Now, why did they shoot rather than just board? I actually think the map tells a story here. Once you cross this blockade line, you are pretty close to the port. If the ship keeps going, obviously you're not going to board it once it's in an Iranian port, and you really don't want to board it if it's close to the coast, visible to the coast, vulnerable to weapon systems from the coast. So by firing that shot, the Navy bought time for the Marines to come in from the USS Tripoli and rappel down from helicopters. Very dramatic video released by CENTCOM on that front.
Indeed. And what does that signal to you about the seriousness of this blockade and the capabilities of the Navy and Marine personnel on station?
Well, it sure sends a deterrent message, doesn't it? Right. Don't ignore us. If you ignore us, we will at least take out your engine room to buy ourselves time to board your ship. So that sends a powerful message. There have been reports that while Iranian ships coming out are reliably being turned around, and CENTCOM said the number today was 27 ships. It's a little vague about whether those ships are coming in or coming out. There have been reports that the Navy is facing more trouble with ships going in, again, for the obvious reason that the ships going in are closer to home base. Moreover, it's harder to tell exactly where they're going in some cases, whereas if you're coming out from Iranian ports, it's more obvious that you're a problem. But the Iranians, of course, have said that the firing on this container ship constitutes a violation of the ceasefire. It's a little rich when you consider that they've been shooting at ships in the Strait for the last
Did so over the weekend also.
Yeah, and not to mention all the way through March. Also that they agreed to open the Strait as a condition of the ceasefire. So it's not exactly like they're innocent actors here.
Glad we have the touchscreen. I'm glad we have you. I lean on you every day for information, skepticism, and whatever else we need our audience to know about this. Aaron MacLean, thank you so very, very much.